Hey, everybody, it's Tim Miller from the Bulwark. I wanted to pop on here because my former colleague, Charlie Sykes, a conservative talk radio host for many years in Wisconsin and used to be here at the Bulwark, doing the Bulwark Daily Pod before I took over, interviewed Kamala Harris and Liz Cheney tonight at an event in Wisconsin. And Charlie, as is his style, started out with a humorous but deeply cutting rant that talked about the contrast between the type of dialogue and type of conversation he was about to have with the vice president and Congresswoman Cheney versus what you've been hearing from the crazy Trump rallies lately. So let's hear Charlie.
We're not going to be talking about sharks and electrocutions. We are not going to be going through Tony Evers' 40-minute playlist and swaying to the music. We're not going to be talking about Jewish space lasers or Arnold Palmer's putting game. That's the other event down the road.
Really, really good. Now, I just want to play a couple of the highlights from this exchange because, look, I think that the vice president's day today, starting with the town hall with my current colleague, Sarah Longwell, and then ending in Wisconsin with Charlie, just shows how focused she is on demonstrating to the remaining wavering Republicans, the Republicans who don't like Trump, the recovering Republicans, the future former Republicans, as Pete Buttigieg likes to call them. She is doing everything possible to signal to them that hers will be an administration that listens to the point of view from these more traditional conservatives, that has them in the room in conversations, and that just respects these fundamental basic values, that the parties long shared, right, about the view of America's role in the world and respect for the rule of law and the Constitution. And the first question that Charlie gave her was basically make the pitch to people in this room who had voted for Bob Dole or Reagan or Kemp, and there's an amusing interlude from Liz Cheney when he asked the question. So let's give that a watch.
There are actually undecided voters out there. Yeah. And they're undecided voters here. Yeah. People who have never voted for a Democrat, moderates, conservatives who voted for people named Bush and Cheney and Ford and Reagan and Bob Dole. Yeah. Wow, that's a throwback, isn't it? But I guess the question is, what is your pitch to them?
I believe that when we think about who we are as the American people, there is more we have in common than what separates us when we think about what is at stake in terms of our democracy, rule of law, the Constitution of the United States, national security, the standing of our country in the context of the world. All of that is at stake.
Yeah. Again, I think that the answer there from the vice president was pretty straightforward. I don't think there's anything there, if you're a progressive viewer of this, that should turn you off, right? It's not as if she's sacrificing her values in any way. She's just offering a contrast between Trump and her, and demonstrating that on these things that we all share, for people that actually love America and love the Constitution and love this and love the country as it is, which we know Donald Trump does not. There's more that we have in common than that separates us, and that on those fundamental basic issues, she will be aligned, even if you end up disagreeing with a policy matter here or there. And I would just add, she didn't make this point, but I would just add, there are going to be policy issues that you disagree with Trump on, unless you are a nativist who loves tariffs, which I guess there's some of people out there, but certainly not any former Reagan Republicans. So I thought that was a strong answer. And then I think that really the contrast becomes the most clear in the answer to another question from both Cheney and Harris later in the town hall. And I want to watch that in full.
Do you think we'll be hearing more from some of those folks in the next 15 days? The generals, the chiefs of staff, the people who really understand exactly how unfit Donald Trump is?
I do. I also think that, that they have been very clear so far. I mean, you've had hundreds of national security officials who served in Republican administrations endorsed the vice president.
Yeah.
And all of the things that, the fact that these people aren't endorsing, the fact that Vice President Pence was the most loyal person there was to Donald Trump, he won't endorse him because he knows Donald Trump asked him to violate his oath of office. Now, that should also give you a lot of pause about JD Vance. JD Vance is there because he will do what Donald Trump wants, and that makes him a particular danger to the Republic as well.
All right, so you had there Liz Cheney jumping in, and in all of these events today, they talked about the generals, the people that worked for Trump, and they even referenced Mike Pence. All these people that know Trump, that were close to him, that have said he's a danger, that have said that they're not going to vote for him. But Liz went a little further in this answer than she did earlier in the day, talking about JD Vance and talking about how dangerous JD Vance is, right? Like not letting him off the hook, not treating it like, oh, it's this relatively normal VP, for a dangerous president. Liz is making the point that JD is dangerous because he opted into this. He saw what Mike Pence did, which was be principled at the last possible second after being a loyal ally to Trump, and how he was cast aside. And rather than appreciating that, or rather than honoring the fact that Mike Pence stood up for the Constitution and the rule of law, JD did the opposite. He was somebody who jumped in and said, hey, no, I would have done what you want. I would have made Donald Trump an autocrat. That's deeply concerning to think about what his incentives would be if he was in there as the VP and as a top lieutenant to Donald Trump and executing, the plans that he has outside of the rule of law. So I thought that the sharp critique of JD from Liz there was very important. And I think says something to Republicans who may see JD as kind of normal and think, well, I don't know, Trump's getting old. Maybe he'll be checked out and JD will be running things. It's like, you can't trust that guy either. And I was interested that Liz Cheney wasn't alone on this. Brett Stevens, who I'm hoping to be interviewing in the next couple of days, who had been reluctant to interview Harris, the New York Times columnist, if you're not familiar, conservative New York Times columnist, said that he was going to reluctantly vote for Harris, and cited also JD Vance as a reason, right? Saying that this was the one big choice that Donald Trump made, and he chose somebody that is pushing the ticket in the party towards isolationism, towards authoritarianism, away from kind of the traditional Republican views. So I thought it was interesting to see both of them highlight JD Vance today. Lastly, after Liz, you had the vice president jump in there and want to add one more thing. And I think it's a thing that's worth highlighting and something that you're going to hear from her a lot in the closing days, which is this no guardrails, unchecked power.
Understand also what happened in the last few months when the Supreme Court essentially told the former president he will be immune from anything he does in office. So whereas before there was at least some threat of consequence and accountability, that no longer exists. And to the Congresswoman's point, imagine Donald Trump, based on everything we know about him and everything we see now and before, imagine him with no guardrails. Because all of those folks who worked with him before, they're not those who held him back, who attempted to ensure that he would follow the law, are no longer there. And we have the Supreme Court decision. So the stakes are very high.
That is a way to talk to some of these people that know better, these college-educated Republicans who know better, who say, I don't like Trump's character, but I like the policies. It's like, but do you really want to bet on somebody with that character, having no guardrails, being unchecked, having the Supreme Court already tell him that he would be immune from consequence for another 4 years as he approaches age 82? I can't think about how anybody would make that calculation, that is a risk worth taking. So strong event tonight. Was glad to see Charlie Sykes in his home state. He made the joke in the crucial Waukesha County. If you know, you know.
Welcome to this production of The Odd Couple. Okay, and it really is odd. I never thought that I would be here. You never thought that I would be here. But that's because this is not a normal election. This is not an election between Democrats and Republicans, liberals and conservatives. So that's why we're doing this, dogs and cats together in this strange moment. It's why we're having this conversation here in Brookfield, Wisconsin, crucial Waukesha County.
I think sending a message that is important to send to people of Wisconsin, because people of Wisconsin know Charlie as somebody who is not just a, kind of moderate Republican talk radio host, down the line conservative talk radio host, well known in the state, many, many years on the air. And I think that having him out there is a big signal to people of the state.
Lindsey Graham was on television yesterday saying, what are you, never Trump Republicans, what are you thinking of? How could you possibly do all of this? There are a lot of people who are listening to us who may be disillusioned with what's happening with the Republican Party, but they're afraid of paying the price because there is a cost to all of this. So what do you say to those Americans?
Well, don't listen to Lindsey Graham, number one. It's good life advice, actually.
We'll be back here on the Bulwark YouTube page tomorrow with more of this, covering the latest from the campaign trail. So subscribe to the feed, give us a thumbs up. We'll see you back here soon. Peace. Hey, if you like this video and our content, I'd love for you to become a Bulwark Plus subscriber. You get access to bonus podcasts, secret podcasts, and newsletters we put out every day, plus some behind-the-scenes takes that I don't always post on this feed. In addition, you can become part of the Bulwark community. Come over to our Substack and comment and meet other like-minded people. We'd love to have you. Starting today, you can get a free trial at thebulwark.com/free trial. The link is right here on the screen and below in the description. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Come on and give it a free try today.